Hello and welcome to Farming Simulator 17 and this eighth episode or something on the Skogstorp map. I've been mostly playing. I'm Andy, by the way. I've been mostly playing Farming Simulator 17, yeah, and the Hofbergman map lately. But I'm gonna play this for a little bit now. Actually, I'm waiting for a new version of the Hofbergman map coming out, version 1.0.0.3, which looks very different from the earlier versions. So I'm gonna try to do a new Let's Play on that one, but I'll see when it's out. Hasn't been out for a few days. We'll see. We'll probably be out someday. In the meanwhile, we'll do a little of this. So today we need to put some of these in here. I think it holds 16,000 liters, so that's 2 of these and 2 bales. Nope. No, don't fall off. Okay, good. Might be easy. No, that was bad. Something fell down. Fortunately. Oh well. So I think this trailer holds 16,000, so 2 of these, 4,000 each, 8,000 together, and then we'll have two bales of silage. That should be enough. I don't really have a plan for this episode. I just wanted to play it a little bit. I probably should have a plan, but no, sorry, don't have a plan. I'll still also have a cold, which you realized from listening to the last episode, yesterday's episode. A lot of people, the thing also, if you wonder why I do a lot of Hofbergman episodes, that's because a lot of people actually watch those. Compared to this one, which hardly anyone watches. But SB Farmer, thank you for your feedback. I hope if you people are watching, please leave your feedback. Let me know if you want me to do this. I think it's a cool map. I should play this more. Actually, I should play most map more. I don't have time. Oh, that's weird. I think I actually can switch the side, right? Tip side right, U. Tip side left. Okay, so it's still not in a trough, but it's sort of closer. Let's look at our animals. We need some more. Empty. So let's see. Don't have to go far. The coal. I really don't like having a coal. So, as I mentioned, I probably mentioned it on an early episode, but I sort of was home last part of last week because my daughter was ill with a cold, and then I got a cold this weekend, and I stayed home from work yesterday. I'm recording this Tuesday evening, and I think you're gonna see it Friday morning, maybe Thursday morning or Friday morning. If I can't really remember all these things. But so I'm gonna get this up. Oh, maybe this work. Actually, I was thinking about adding a cool new mod to this one. A placeable apple tree. I think it was apples, maybe apples and something else. Which actually you give it water and manure, and then it produces fruit, which are directly sold. So you don't have to, not unlike the Hofbergman map where you have to collect those, but you just get the fruit and you raise money, sort of like a solar panel, or when you know the other placeable mods which gives you an income. Don't know how much trees would cost, but they're on the main Farming Simulator website in case you're wondering. In case you're interested in looking at that. Also, forklift I want to try it, but I'm going to try that out on the new Hofbergman map. Oh god, I really hate colds. What do you think about being sick? Not really bad. I mean, it's not really bad. It's not like I'm dying or anything. Well, everyone is dying, but it's just a matter of time. That was my cheering up fiance says, who's a nurse specialized in oncology. She's like, well, everyone is dying. Yeah, I guess I am. I don't really like death. Well, no one likes death, I guess. It's not like, oh, let's go and die today. But I have sort of an issue with death. I keep doing that the wrong way. I'm turning 40 years old next year. I have 2 kids. They are 5.5 years old. And I think that actually having kids has made me pretty darn afraid of dying. Before it was like, okay, this is gonna be like a really deep episode, I'm sorry. But before it was like, I didn't want to die, but if it happened, it happened. Now suddenly when you have kids you realize there's so much things you could lose with dying. And I really don't want to die. It's not the dying part, I'm not afraid of dying, but I am afraid of not having enough time with my kids. And aware that they won't have a good life. I'm pretty sure people, hopefully if I die and my fiance raises them, they will have a pretty good life. But it sort of makes me a little bit worried. I want to be there. I want to see, not the results, that sounds wrong, but in some way I do want to see the results. I want to see what happens to them. I want to see them grow up to adults and see, hopefully have good lives and maybe guide them on the way there. That's sort of my idea of being a parent. It's to prepare them for a life without you. Or just a life of being grown up. But preferably I will die before they will. And I'm okay with that if I'm pretty old and they're older and have their own family or some sort of idea of what to do with their lives. Then I'm pretty okay with that. I don't mind. But that's not yet. They're just 5.5, so that's quite a few years off. But we don't get to choose. But it's kind of interesting. We started talking about this, me and my fiance yesterday, about disease. She talks a lot about oncology class, and she talked to her mother, and her mother had a neighbor who unfortunately has got a cancer form. It spread all over his body, which won't leave him with a lot of time. But the thing was, he had it in his family. They had a vulnerability, and they checked him when he was younger and couldn't find any pre stages of tumors. There's not tumor is not the correct word. I'm looking for another word. Something that develops into tumors. But so his family was very much not congested. They suffered from that sort of version of cancer, unfortunately. And then we start talking about the fact that if we're going to live long enough, it's mostly, well, it's some about our environment, about how we live our lives. But we can shorten it by drinking, smoking, and doing drugs and everything. But it's mostly about our genes, which we have no effect on. We have our genes the way we are. We can only sort of affect it slightly, and hopefully not shorten our lives too much. But then again, sometimes I think about my grandfather, who's 94 years old. He was born, I think he was born in 1923. He lost his wife when they were born the same age, the same year. My grandmother and my grandfather, and my grandmother passed away when she was 68. So it's been a widow since he was 68. I thought that he wouldn't live long after that, but I was very wrong about that. He's still alive, kicking. He lives in an elderly home now, but he has a good time, enjoying life. And that's sort of weird that when if you talk to him, I mean, he doesn't. I think he was one of 10 kids or something, 10 or 11 kids, I think. And he's the only one that's still alive. So he's the only one of all his siblings that's still alive, and he has no friends. All friends are dead. And that makes you wonder. I mean, if there's a certain point in life where you sort of feel like, it's enough. I think there is. Your kids will outgrow you. Your spouse will your spouse will outlive you, or you will outlive your spouse. And if you outlive your spouse is something else. Spouse, then you could probably find someone else. Or not. My grandfather never remarried or met anyone. He was married to my grandmother, and they lived their life together since they were very young. And after she passed away, he has lived alone since then. I have no idea what my point is actually. Where I'm going with is rambling. Where's our straw is full, grass, we need grass and water, but that's okay, we can do that's next episode. Okay, I have no idea where I was going with this. I just sort of lost everything I was thinking about doing on this episode. But we can maybe go and, I don't know, refill the milk. Let's go and check the milk first though. Go to the milk, to the dairy, which is up here somewhere. Where is it here? Go with that. No, that's here. That's closest, I think. So we can go above across here and see how much milk there is, and maybe we could refill it. I can't remember what I did on the last episode. It's not that. It's like a week ago or something. I probably need to refill the milk. Maybe pallets too. Oh, that's empty. So need to refill some milk. There it is. We need a trailer to do that. Milk trailer down there. We could just hook this there. That's dirty. We need to wash that. Well, any day now. So hook that. And go and see if we can hook this up. We only need like 10. It only holds 10,000 liters, so we only need 10,000 liters in this gigantic tank. Unfortunately, don't know what. Feels like so now. So 10,000 liters is enough. Don't know how much we have actually. Go check that. And we don't have a lot. Well, we'll have 10,000 liters at least. Go put that in our dairy. And I could put everything here actually. Just sell the rest at the dairy. God, I have to take something for my nose later. I'm sorry. I do apologize for my my cold, and for not putting out enough Skogstorp maps. But I really like this map. I don't know why I don't play it. But it's because I got hooked on Hofbergman again. But this is a good map too. I should play it more. Most definitely. So interesting map. Almost full. Go on. The fact you could actually close the window, right? It's like, I don't know how stupid I could be. I was like driving around with the window down forever and ever, and it's like, oh, you can press a button and it goes up and down. It's like, yeah, I should have understood that. Sometimes I feel, sometimes I'm quite daft actually. I wish I was one of those people that I'm not dumb. I'm not saying dumb, but I'm not. My greatest ability comes with actually being able to think things over, and I'm not the fastest person, but most of my ideas and what I do turn out pretty good in the end. Maybe not the fastest way, but it's probably one of the best ways. And I'm like, if I don't know if anyone has any one of you taken a like IQ test, standardized intelligence test. They're kind of cool. I remember when I went to university and studied psychology for a couple of years, and then learning science. No, that's not the correct term. I can't remember the English word for it. When we had this course about cognitive psychology, we actually did I did a bunch of free IQ tests just to see what. And it's funny. Sometimes you think that IQ is a stable trait, which is sort of is, because IQ is always related to age, and your age group you compare to other people in the age group. So a 9-year-old doesn't have the same test results as a 30-year-old, but they do have the same IQ because it's adapted. Or at least was that back then. I think it's still the same. So IQ. The thing about IQ tests or any tests is that they have validity and reliability. So validity is if they measure what they are supposed to measure. For instance, if you say you have an IQ test that measures your weight, that's a bad validity. It doesn't measure what it says it's going to measure. So that's a bad IQ test. It could measure the really reliable. It could, I mean, each time you step on the what do you call it? It's called våg in Swedish. What do you weigh yourself on? Weight. Whenever you step on it, it gives you the same weight, but it might have good reliability, but it still is off because it doesn't measure what it's supposed to be measuring. So one thing I did when I was studying, I actually took a bunch of these IQ tests, which back then were free online stuff, and you took it and got a span from, I think the worst I did was like 76, which is, I mean, basically pretty dumb. And the best was like 124, which is above pretty decent amount above average. So then IQ tests aren't like a permanent stable trait that you can measure in a certain way and it always stays that way, because tests aren't always reliable, which people tend to forget, but that's the way it is. But so I'm like, if you want to ask me if I want to seem clever, I will use the 124 point result, and if I want to seem average, I will say like I'm average, which I probably am. I'm probably like average. And then I learn stuff and that makes me slightly above average, but I'm not sure. That's always a problem. I always thought about that when working with people, that if someone has like an average IQ, then you understand that you have an average IQ. I mean, I don't have any illusion. I'm not part of Mensa. I mean, my IQ is average. Sometimes I make mistakes when I think, and sometimes, most of the times, I get it right. Well, that's one thing. I know that I'm average. People that know they have high IQ usually know they have high IQ. They sort of have some sort of grasp, even if they haven't tested themselves. They know they have some sort of grasp of them being able to understand stuff. In contrary to most belief, people with high IQ doesn't, per definition, have bad social skills. That's actually a myth, but that's a whole other discussion. But the problem is with people with low IQ. They tend not to understand that they do in fact have a low IQ, which is a problem. I mean, if you average intelligent, you understand that you're average, and you sort of make your life decisions based on that, and you avoid situations when you're not gonna succeed, but you do things when you do know you're gonna succeed. If you're high IQ, you make your decisions out of that base of framework too. The problem is if you have low IQ, my experience is that you don't tend to understand that you have a low IQ. You think that you are smart. Sometimes I even met people with low IQ that think they're smarter than everyone else. They keep making the most stupid mistakes over and over, and then they have two ways of justifying that. Either it was a mistake, or it was someone else that made the mistake. It's called locus of control in psychology language. It's you can have internal locus of control. You can put the as a reason for something happening inside of yourself or outside of yourself, and that could be wrong in two ways. I mean, if you say, let's see, take an example. I really like psychology. This is what I'm talking about. Say I drive this truck and I drive it off a cliff. And I say, oh, it's someone else's fault. Then it's wrong because it wasn't someone else's fault. I drove it off the cliff. Then my locus of control is off because it was plainly my fault, and I explained it with someone else's, being it's someone else's fault. So that's one mistake you can make in that aspect. But you can also, another mistake you can make is if you explain, if you say, well, I say this, I go to a job interview and there's 40 people after the same job, and 35 of those are more highly qualified than I am. So they get the job, and my explanation is that that's something wrong with me. I'm stupid, and if I just had tried harder, I would have gotten the job, which isn't true. That's totally false. I didn't get the job because there were people that were more qualified, and I had no control over those people. I could only control myself. And I explain, my ration for not getting the job is that I'm bad or some way, and just ignoring the fact that no, that's not truth. The truth of it is that they were just more qualified, and I didn't have any control of that. So I put the control inside myself, like an internal locus of control, rather than actually putting it somewhere. And most things, like most things in life, these differ from situations. Sometimes I am to blame for what happens. Sometimes it doesn't matter what I do. It wasn't my fault. I could do everything right, and everything turns out wrong anyway. And that differs from situations all the time. There's no set value. It's always my fault. And that tends to be the problem, is people always blame themselves. Whatever happens, they blame themselves, or whatever happens, they blame someone else. That's a problem, because most people understand that sometimes it's my fault, and sometimes it's other fault. Sometimes it's aspects of life that I have no control over. But that's my experience with people that aren't very low intelligent people, is that they tend to use these definitions of the locus of control, those things, in a non-functioning way. That sometimes they tend to they tend to use one strategy and they'd use that all over the place, and that doesn't really that's not the way life works. So life is complicated, and sometimes it's interaction, and I get it wrong a lot of times too. I mean, it's easily, I mean, first time I lost my job, it's like I thought it was my fault, but in fact it was just the economy was bad, and it didn't really matter how good I was at my job. That didn't make more money coming to the county, so the funding for this my tenure wasn't there, so I got sacked. And I thought there was some way I could have done more, but the truth of it, there wasn't. Didn't really matter what I did. But when I was depressed after losing my job, I put a lot of control inside myself, which is also a way to handle that sort of things. If I put control inside myself, then that's something I could actually do and change if I just had more education, which could have changed it. I'm not saying this and didn't, but couldn't, but it probably wouldn't have changed it. So you can use this in a large number of ways. I don't know. I just spun out of hand here with the psychology chat, and used up all the minutes of my show. Okay, so I'm sorry about the rambling. I hope someone liked psychology. I liked it. I love psychology, actually. That's where my degree is, and that's my field of profession. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a social worker, but my degree is in psychology. I'm gonna leave it there. 26 minutes, almost 27, and I hope you enjoyed the episode, even though it was rambling about everything from my grandpa to death to psychology and intelligence and a lot of different stuff. But it's a very interesting field. I like that. I taught psychology for a few years too, 3 years at like high school level. I really enjoyed that. Well, that's it. I'm Andy. We've been watching Skogstorp map. I didn't do much today, but we watched it anyway. We'll see what I'll figure out for next episode. So until then, I hope you had a good time. As I said, I'm Andy. This is Skogstorp Farming Simulator 17. If you like my channel, please subscribe. If you like this episode, please hit like button, leave a comment or share, and I'll see you the next time. Have a great day. Bye bye.